Hello, everybody's in this one. But by the way, have you read this? It's really rather good. Act of Oblivion. It's not in fact a novel or a biography of Liz Truss, but it could easily be. Liz Truss or Kwasi Kwarteng, because Oblivion is clearly what they are looking for and what they have in fact set in motion. The oblivion of the Conservative Party, if not themselves. Today, Kwasi Kwarteng is at the IMF in Washington, presumably keeping a low profile. But why would he want to do that? Why would he want to do that? Why would the man who draws so much attention to himself, fumbling in his pocket to sort of trouser activity and smirking during the Queen's funeral, that person who, for a week, for 10 days, for more, all we could hear from Liz Truss was stuff about Kwasi Kwarteng's package. And then we get that extraordinary moment at the beginning of the Conservative Party where he's forced to go around to circumvent the problem, to chop off the 45p reduction nonsense and hope that everything's all right. The damage has been done, the problem has been caused, there's no going back really. And so therefore he's in the IMF, presumably hiding because, pride, arrogance I'd call it, arrogance. And at the same time, we've got Nadine Dorries, who caused enough problem because she can't keep out of the limelight. Nadine Dorries causes problems, and then she thinks everything is going to be all right, as does Penny Mordaunt. Everything is going to be all right by telling the rest of the Conservative Party to get behind Liz Truss, or in the case of Liz Truss, in the case of Nadine Dorries, they're all interchangeable. In the case of Nadine Dorries, what does she say? She says that Liz Truss herself must stop being disruptive. She is the disruptor. It's like in those days, years ago, when I was a cox in a boat in Oxford, and I remember. The cox is supposed to steer the boat and give advice. In the end, I became a coach and give advice. And I realised that the big problem in that boat was the fact that the person who was supposed to be setting the time, was out of time. He had no sense of timing. He had no sense of rhythm. So I used to say, stroke, get in time. That's like Nadine Dorries. But in the case of government, we assume the Prime Minister knows what she's doing. In this case, she doesn't clearly. She hasn't the slightest idea. And her idea of control is to bark orders and repeat slogans which actually she's read elsewhere. Either in history or her speechwriter has shoved the paper under her nose that she can claim that it's hers and then bark it. She has a minus 47% approval rating at this moment. This is staggering. And Dorries thinks that Graham Brady and the 1922 committee have no option but to kowtow to her and urge her to bring the party together. She couldn't bring herself together. She couldn't bring Kwasi Kwarteng to heel. How is she going to bring the party? This is futile. She needs replacing, and it needs to happen fast. We can't have another 6 weeks out while there is an election campaign and another twit is appointed. We need somebody with competence in that place. And at the same time, immediately, because we're seriously compromising our democratic credentials here, we need to reach out to the opposition and get members of the opposition into government. We need to recognise in this country that the next government will be a Labour government, and they will do a jolly good job, a better job than these people. I have never been so ashamed of a government of any colour. These people in power, these two individuals who have single-handedly, how can two individuals single-handedly? Well, I think one of Kwasi Kwarteng's hands is otherwise occupied anyway. So they've got three hands between them, and Liz Truss doesn't really know how to move hands separately of each other, so I suppose both her hands move in at the same time. So yes, single-handedly have destroyed our economy, our reputation, and our determination. We are drenched in depression as a nation because of these two individuals. Replace them